Today, the next author of utmost importance is Elizabeth Gaskell. Elizabeth Gaskell, who was born in London in 1810. Her mother died when Elizabeth was young, and so she was raised by her aunt. In 1832, Elizabeth Gaskell married William Gaskell and shared his ministry because he was a Unitarian minister. They had 6 children, two of whom did not survive infancy. Though she had been writing for some time, Gaskell's first novel, Mary Barton. Mary Barton was not published until 1848. She also wrote several short pieces for Howitts Journal, Howitts, Howitts Journal, and even she wrote for Household Words. Household Words. I am sure you must remember that I have taught you this name. This is a very important journal name, and if you are not able to remember, then there is some problem with memory, because I have repeated this work many times in my previous classes. And in spite that she used to write the short stories for Howitts Journal and Household Words, she also continued to write novels. The name of the novels, Ruth and Cranford. Ruth and Cranford. These two were published in 1853. Then there was a novel, North and South. North and South, published in 1855. Gaskell had friendship with many England's literary giants, literary people like Dickens, Wordsworth, Charlotte Bronte. After her death in 1855, Charlotte Bronte's father asked Gaskell to write a biography of her life. So Gaskell's Life of Charlotte Bronte, which was published in 1857, is still admired today. Some other important works by Elizabeth Gaskell include The Moorland Cottage, My Lady Ludlow, The Grey Woman and Other Tales, Wives and Daughter, and many others. And Elizabeth Gaskell finally died. She died suddenly in 1865. Elizabeth Gaskell's novel, Ruth, 1853 novel, is a story of Ruth Hilton, who is a poor orphan girl who is working in a dressmaker's shop. She is without family or friends, without friends. Her mother dies when Ruth is only 12 years of age, and her father, an unsuccessful farmer, dies 3 years later. Then her father unwisely set her future in place when he set up a legal guardianship at her birth that placed her in the care of the most prominent man he knew, but a man who had never ever met Ruth. And her guardian's disinterest in Ruth is quickly made obvious when he settles the estate and immediately sets her into an apprenticeship with a dressmaker. There, she has no advocate other than her friend Jenny, who too soon falls ill and leaves Ruth once again alone. Not quite 16, orphaned and friendless, the beautiful but naive Ruth is an easy prey for handsome and wealthy Mr. Bellingham. Mrs. Mason, the dressmaker, shares in the complexity of Ruth's downfall, for she treats Ruth as a commodity to improve her own business. Not only are Ruth and the other people forced into intolerable working conditions and used roughly, but Mrs. Mason insists on putting the most beautiful girls on display at the Shire Hall ball. There Ruth first meets the self-serving Bellingham, and when Mrs. Mason later sees Ruth in the company of Bellingham, she turns Ruth out of her service. So this was a short story for this novel Ruth, which is a very important novel and a very well-known name for in the credentials of Elizabeth Gaskell. Then इससे ज्यादा स्टूडेंट्स आपको नहीं पढ़ना है, इसी में आप इसको नोट डाउन कर सकते हैं और इसी में आप बहुत कुछ यू कैन गेट इट, बिकॉज इतना भी लोग स्टूडेंट्स को पता नहीं होता अबाउट एलिजाबेथ गास्किल जितना मैंने आपको यहाँ 10 मिनट्स के अंदर डिटेल्स दे दिया है. नाउ द सेल्फ स्टडी इज योर्स. The next author which I am going to take is Harriet Ann Jacobs. Harriet Ann Jacobs. Do you know who was Harriet Ann Jacobs? Have you ever heard the name of Harriet Ann Jacobs? She was a born slave. Born North Carolina, and she authored her 1861 autobiographical slave narrative known as Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. स्लेव नैरेटिव का क्या नाम था जो हैरियट एन जेकब्स ने लिखा? Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, under the pseudonym Linda Brent. She wrote this work under the pseudonym Linda Brent so that her original name should not be there in the market. Although she subtitled this narrative as written by herself, इसका नाम रखा, उसका सबटाइटल था written by herself. The autobiography was long assumed to be fictitious or ghost written, perhaps authored by the well-known white feminist and abolitionist Lydia Maria Child, who is named as editor on the book's original title page. And later on, in the 1980s, the feminist scholar Jean Yellen authenticated Jacobs' narrative and authorship providing all the detailed documentation of the actual name of individuals and placed Jacob that Jacob has written incidents in the life of a slave girl. In the early childhood, she lived a relatively sheltered life under the protection of her father, a carpenter, who hired his own time from his owner, and her maternal grandmother, a freed slave who opened a bakery in her home. At the age of 6, following her mother's death, Jacob went to live with her mistress, who bequeathed her to a niece. Jacob was subjected to unrelenting sexual harassments at the hands of her young mistress's father, Dr. James Norcom. Rather than become his uh, concubine, Jacob enters into a willing sexual liaison with a white neighbor, Samuel Treadwell Sawyer, who was later elected as to the US Congress. And Sawyer fathered Jacob's 2 children, Joseph and Lucia Matilda. So ये एक स्टोरी है मारिया हैरियट एंड जेकब्स की. आपको याद रहेगा, आप कहीं इसको नोट डाउन भी कर सकते हैं. And if we talk about his most prominent work, that is the slave narrative, the incidents in the life of a slave girl, written by herself, the subtitle, Jacobs employed the pseudonym Linda Brent for the autobiography's first person narrator and changed the names of other individuals as well. A very gripping and a very moving account of Jacob's life in slavery and her struggle to secure freedom of herself and her 2 children. Incidents focuses on the particular experiences of oppression faced by women in slavery, both as mothers and as objects of sexual exploitation. So, Jacob's pseudonymous character or narrator, Linda Brent, begins by assuring the reader that this narrative is no fiction, although she has concealed the names of places and given persons fictitious names. So, ये इसका डिटेल है. इतना काफी है स्टूडेंट्स, और इसको ध्यान से लिख लीजिएगा. The last feminist writer today which I am going to teach you is Mary Shelley. Though we have read it in short somewhere in the British literature when we were doing the British literature part, but today specifically I have chosen this name because many questions have been coming from Shelley and Mary Shelley, and she is an important writer for the examination and any examinations for literature. My first question to you students is, who will tell me within 15 seconds what is the full name of Mary Shelley? यहाँ पे बीच में क्या नाम होगा? I'll just see that who will be giving me the answer in 15 seconds. I'm waiting. The middle name of Mary Shelley. A very small and a very simple question. I'm waiting. Mary Shelley. Sushmita, wrong. Matthews, wrong. Shreya, you are right. No, no, no. Only one student, Shreya, has given me the right answer. That is Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. Mary Wollstonecraft. Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley was born in 1797. Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley was born in 1797 in London and died there in February 1851. And she was the daughter of William Godwin. And who was William Godwin? A great political philosopher whose major work, Inquiry concerning political justice, जिसको हम लोग शॉर्ट में political justice भी कहते हैं, of 1793, espoused anarchy and the moral theory of utilitarianism. And Mary Wollstonecraft, the feminist author of A Vindication of the Rights of Women, 1792. Wollstonecraft died from complications in childbirth. And though Godwin remarried some 4 years later, Shelley never experienced the joys of a happy home life. When she was only 16, she met the poet Percy Bysshe Shelley and they became lovers. Soon she was pregnant, and with the dissolution of the poet's first marriage, the two married in 1816. Shelley was early and often acquainted with tragedy. Her first 3 children died before she was 22. In 1816, her half-sister Fanny Imlay committed suicide. July 1822, her husband Percy Bysshe Shelley died by drowning. And though she wrote prolifically throughout her life, her most admired work remains Frankenstein, जिसका दूसरा नाम है The Modern Prometheus, published in 1818. And during the summer of 1816, Mary Wollstonecraft and Percy Bysshe Shelley were visiting with Lord Byron and his personal physician, Mr. Polidori. And the four each decided to write a ghost story. Mary Shelley recounts in her 1831 introduction of the 3rd edition of the book that the story was written during a wet, ungenial summer with incessant rain, confining the group to the house. She cast about for a story that would speak to the mysterious fears of our nature and awaken a thrilling horror, one to make the reader dread to look around, to curdle the blood and quicken the beatings of the heart. And the genesis of her story is found in conversations between P.B. Shelley and Lord Byron, in which various philosophical doctrines were discussed, and among others, the nature of the principle of life, and whether there was any probability of its ever being discovered and communicated. Shelley confesses that she was a devout but nearly silent listener. Of the four, only she finished a story, and the result, Frankenstein, is one of the most probing looks into the relationship between the creator and the creation. Mary Shelley structures her novel in a very complicated and somewhat strained nesting of the stories and narrators. So basically, Frankenstein is a work which should be read by every student in detail. And I think I have written it in my study material also, which is also very important. So Frankenstein कई बार एग्जाम में पूछा गया है, इसका आप समरी भी पढ़ लीजिएगा एंड इसका जो क्रक्स है, समरी है, वो आपको जरूर आना चाहिए. द मॉडर्न प्रोमीथियस. So students, with this we end the major according to my calculations, according to my system. बीच बीच में हम आपको वो चीज भी करा देते हैं जो लगता है कि कहीं कुछ छूट ना रहा हो, क्योंकि वंस इट इज ओवर तो ये चीज हो नहीं पाएगी. तो आपको कैसा लगा स्टूडेंट्स? ये पूरा फेमिनिस्ट राइटर जो था, कंप्लीट जो फेमिनिस्ट राइटर्स में कितने ऑथर्स मैंने बताया मुझे याद तो नहीं है, लेकिन आप उसको देखिए और ये देखिए कि हाँ, अगर ये फेमिनिस्ट ऑथर्स सर ने नहीं बताया होता तो शायद यू वुड हैव बीन मिसिंग समथिंग. सो बताइए स्टूडेंट्स, जस्ट गिव मी सम few of your this thing. Feminist literature, there are innumerable feminist literature, feminist authors. आप याद करिए कि मैंने काफी पहले जब वर्ल्ड लिटरेचर पढ़ा रहे थे उस समय भी मैंने आपको वर्ल्ड के बहुत सारी फेमिनिन ऑथर्स के बारे में बताया था शॉर्ट में. वो शायद आपके पास नोट्स अभी भी होगा. जो स्टूडेंट्स ने लेटर में ज्वाइन किया है वो उस वर्ल्ड लिटरेचर के लेक्चर्स में जाकर के उसको पा सकते हैं. और हमारे पास कुछ रिक्वेस्ट आई है स्टूडेंट्स की कि पिछली भी हमने आपको एज ऑफ ट्रांजिशन पढ़ाया था, जो आप लोगों को बहुत अच्छा लगा. डिटेल में आपको समझाने की कोशिश की थी, जिसमें थॉमस ग्रे का बहुत डिटेल हम लोगों ने पढ़ा था. सो टुडे अगेन फॉर हाफ ऑफ द क्लास I am going to take a very important British literature topic, and the name of this area is just feel. आज इस लेक्चर से आपको एक चीज समझ में आएगी कि इंग्लिश लिटरेचर में कितना स्कोप है, कितना डेप्थ है इंग्लिश लिटरेचर में. अगर आप 10 बार भी पढ़ेंगे हमसे तो 10 बार आपको नई चीजें मिलेंगी. 20 बार भी पढ़ेंगे तो 20 बार नई चीजें मिलेंगी. इट इज हाउ पैशनेट यू आर, इट इज हाउ टेंडर योर माइंड इज टू अडॉप्ट, टू हैव द एडेप्टेबिलिटी एंड टू नर्चर योर माइंड with so much nourishment that if you stand somewhere तो सिर्फ आप ही आप दिखने चाहिए. And it can only happen when you have an ocean of knowledge. Little knowledge is a dangerous thing, always remember. So I'm going to give you a brief lecture on the age of Dryden. ये स्टूडेंट्स, ये लेक्चर जो होगा इसमें हम आपसे कुछ पूछेंगे नहीं, हम यहां पे कुछ लिखेंगे नहीं. आई विल जस्ट गिव अ एक्सटेम्पोर लेक्चर ऑन दिस एज ऑफ ड्राइडन एंड जस्ट सिट बैक क्वाइटली एंड लिसन कॉन्सेंट्रेटेडली एंड फील कि सर जो बता रहे हैं क्या हमें वो आता था या नहीं आता था, या कितना परसेंट मुझे पहले से आता था या अब आने के बाद कितना बढ़ गया. After the end of this class, I will request all my students to give me the percentage again, क्योंकि ये ऐसी चीज हम पढ़ाने जा रहे हैं जो आपको आना चाहिए. लेकिन हमें अभी भी डाउट है कि शायद बहुत सारी चीजें आपको आज नहीं मिलने वाली हैं. Okay, students, so let us start. So I'm going to start with the age of bridal. First of all, I'll talk about the historical background. The English people in the last years of the great Elizabeth were beginning to look out upon the world in a quite new way. And for the first time, they were looking across the oceans for new worlds. First, they used to live in the separate village settlements and worshipped their Norse gods, Norse. Then they had become Christians. And had joined together into the kingdom. Then the Danes had come and mixed with the English race. Afterwards, the Normans had conquered the people and had taught them better ways of living and administering the government. The Normans gave the English people a desire for new lands, and more than once English kings tried to gain an empire in France but tried in vain. In the days of Elizabeth, none of the lands they had gained in France belonged to England. Only the Channel Islands were left to show that England and Normandy had ever been united. But the people at different times had gained a share in the government. Towns had grown up as trade flourished. And with them, the middle classes also sprang up. The first days had been the days of peasants and the nobles, but the last days, the Tudor days, had been the days of the middle class. By middle class, we mean the people who are neither peasants nor nobles, but come in between these two extremes. They could have been traders, manufacturers, merchants, shopkeepers, doctors, lawyers, solicitors, preachers, teachers, and lecturers. And during the Tudor period, these middle class people had more power in their hands. But the nobles had ruined themselves by fighting one another in the War of the Roses, until many noble houses had lost all their members. The nobles who attended the court of the Tudor were most of them new nobles who had gained their titles by the Tudor kings. Naturally, these nobles had been loyal to the kings, whereas the old nobles had been opposed to the king. And after the death of Queen Elizabeth in 1603, James of Scotland, the great grandson of Margaret and the son of Mary, Queen of Scots, became the King of England. And it should here be remembered that in 1503, Henry VII had got his daughter married to James VI of Scotland. And the last three of the five Tudor rulers died without children. Naturally, therefore, James of Scotland was enthroned. James I was the King of England for 22 years. He was followed by his son Charles I, who ruled for 24 years. Neither of them proved worthy of being a good King of England. Both of them ruled very badly. And this was partly because they did not understand the English people or the way in which the English people were governed, and partly because they were obstinate and liked their own way. There were many things about which people quarreled. First of all, there was religious trouble. And when Queen Elizabeth settled and the religious troubles, she made the English church a Protestant church. But now, in the Stuarts' reign, they were not thinking the same about the religious matters. Some of them wanted services in the churches very much like those they had been held before the Reformation, while the others wanted services different from these. James and Charles both sided with the former set, and thus they offended the latter. And what was the second trouble? The second trouble arose due to the conception of divine right theory of kings. And they said that the kings do no wrong. They thought that they were the rulers of the country and could rule it as they liked. They said that if they asked the parliament for advice, it was only because they were kind enough to do so. They insisted that parliament had got nothing to do with the foreign affairs, as they thought that was a matter which belonged to the king alone. And the members of the parliament had quite different ideas. They thought that the kings were chosen by the people to rule over them and were responsible to the people for what they did. And another trouble was that these Stuart kings allowed themselves to be governed by their favorites. No doubt, Queen Elizabeth had some of her favorites, but she did not let them interfere in the government of the country. James would choose some good-looking fellow as his friend and allowed him to do as he wished. So there were quarrels going around throughout the Stuarts regime. The quarreling continued for about 40 years, and the quarrel got worse as time went on. And in the end, it got so bad that some of the people sided the king and the others the side of the parliament. Now, we will talk about the Puritans and the Cavaliers. As we have just discussed already, that one set of the people wanted the church services to be very much the same as it had been in the days before the Reformation. They liked a beautiful church, a church which had in it stained glass windows and statues of the saints and paintings on the walls. And they liked also a service which included music and singing, and priests wearing splendid robes or vestments. And they also liked the processions. And the persons who wished for these things became known as Anglicans. याद रखिएगा, Anglicans, इन्हीं लोगों को कहते थे Anglicans. And there were other people also who went to the church regularly but disliked these very things. They said that the stained glass windows and statues and wall paintings led people to worship them as idols were worshipped. And so they wanted all the stained glass to be broken and the statues to be destroyed and the walls of the churches whitewashed to hide the pictures. And this had already been done in some of the English churches in the reign of Edward VI. They also objected to music and the singing in the church. If they allowed their preacher, whom they would never call a priest, any robe at all, it was only a white surplice or a plain black gown. They simply abhorred मतलब होता है detest, anything in the way of ceremony. They even objected to Christmas and plum pudding. They would not use a ring in the marriage service or allow the sign of the cross to be made by the minister when anybody was baptized. And who is these persons? These persons became to be known as Puritans. And during the regime of James I and Charles I, they usually read only one book. And what is the name of that book? Bible. And in reading it, they probably read the Old Testament even more than the New. Text from it became the part of their ordinary conversation. And the children were usually given Bible names as Christian names. And two of these Puritans, Milton and John Bunyan, became famous writers. And who are these Puritans? इनकी खासियत क्या होती है? The Puritans lived a very severe and upright life, and they thought that everybody else should do the same thing. They avoided swearing and the use of oaths. They objected to the theater and plays. They were opposed to most form of games, and some of the games in Stuart times were brutal ones. For the people were very fond of bear baiting and bull baiting and cock fighting, and were always pleased to see two men or two boys fighting one another. But the Puritans went further, opposing brutal games, for some of them objected to games altogether. In older England, it had always been the custom to allow sports in the towns and the villages on Sunday afternoon. And the Puritans were very much against this. They looked upon Sunday as, or the Sabbath, as they called it, as a particularly holy day, and they were opposed to any form of a sport or pleasure at all on the Sabbath day. But not all the Puritans were like this. Many of them were fond of games, hunting, and rode on horses back and played house and other good-fashioned English games. And the Puritans even dressed themselves very plainly. They used to wear a plain, narrow linen band instead of a beautiful lace collars and cuffs which Englishmen would like to put at that time. Instead of the beautiful silk and satin and velvet doublets and breeches, all puffed and slashed, that people were wearing, the Puritans wore only a plain suit of drab or sober color. And their wives only wore the plainest and the simplest dresses with no ornaments except plain linen bands. And the Puritans wore swords also, but fastened to his belt without a sash. Now we will talk about the Cavaliers. All the English people were not Puritans. Many of them liked to wear beautiful clothes and enjoy themselves in many ways denied to the Puritans. They went to the theater, they went to the bear baiting, they hunted, they sported, and enjoyed games too, even on the Sunday afternoons. They were even fond of eating, drinking, reading poems and plays of Shakespeare and other writers. Some of them even used oaths and drank too much. They claimed to be the loyal supporters of the king and the church. And in the course of time, they came to be known as Cavaliers. So I'm sure you would have understand purely and simply the difference between the Cavaliers and the Puritans. And some of the Puritans were so very much opposed to the ideas of the English church that they started to have their own services in their own chapels. But neither Elizabeth nor James would permit them to do so. The Puritans were fined, and if they continued it, they were banished. Many Puritans from Lincolnshire went to live in Holland. They did not find peace of mind there, so in 1620 they set sail in a ship called the Mayflower. उस ship का नाम था Mayflower, to America, and settled at first at New Plymouth. Their first colony was Massachusetts, and these Puritans are always called the Pilgrims' Fathers. कभी कोई पूछ ले आपसे कि what is the word known as Pilgrim Fathers? So ये वो Puritans थे जिनको कहा जाता है Pilgrim Fathers. Now students, we will talk about something more important, that is the Civil War. What is the Civil War? Civil War happened in 1642 to 1649. And the quarrel between Charles I and the Parliament and his Parliament became so bitter that it resulted in the Civil War in England. James had made the Parliament angry by his foreign policy. He wanted his son Charles to marry a Spanish princess, but the English people hated Spain, And besides, the Spaniards were Roman Catholics and the Puritans were very much opposed to everything that was Catholic. And in the meantime, a great quarrel broke out between the Catholics and the Protestants in Germany. And the ruler of Austria was the leader of the Catholics. The ruler of Austria was the leader of the Catholics, and James' own son-in-law, Frederick, was the leader of the Protestants. The English Parliament requested James to side Frederick. James did not yield. So in 1621, James dissolved it. And though Charles I never married the Spanish princess and he married a French princess, yet she was also a Catholic. And the Parliament was against this marriage. And so the quarrel arose. Charles had appointed two men to help him. One of them was Thomas Wentworth. He was the Earl of Stafford, and the other was Archbishop Laud. And the Parliament became furious. Cromwell was the leader of the Puritans, and the war broke out in 1642, and Charles was beaten at the Battle of Naseby. 1645, and the next year he became a prisoner. Later on, January 30th, 1949, at Whitehall, he was assassinated. So students, anything would you like to say now after this lecture? जो मैंने क्वेश्चन आपसे पूछा था, अब शायद जवाब का समय आ गया है. I want some messages from your side that, sir, I was actually knowing about this thing, I was not knowing about this thing. तो जो भी मैंने आज आपको पढ़ाया उसमें से 30 to 40% I have taught you, and it is also in my study material. Now I want to know that could you understand the entire age, जहां से मैंने शुरू किया और जहां पे खत्म किया, और इसी को कहते हैं, इसी प्रकार की पढ़ाई को कहते हैं अपने ब्लड में हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंग्लिश लिटरेचर को पूरी तरीके से इंटीग्रेट कर लेना. जब हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंग्लिश लिटरेचर आपके ब्लड में इंटीग्रेट हो जाएगा, देन दैट इज वन ऑफ द मोस्ट हैप्पीएस्ट मोमेंट्स फॉर एनी इंग्लिश लिटरेचर स्कॉलर. सो आप जो मैसेज लिख रहे हैं बेटा, मैंने ये जवाब नहीं पूछा कि दिस वाज नॉलेजेबल और दिस वाज गुड इनफ. आई एम जस्ट आस्किंग दैट आपको इतनी जो नॉलेज मिली, आप कितने स्टूडेंट्स हैं जिसमें कि उनको कितना पता था? बिकॉज हमारे स्टूडेंट्स को इसमें से मैक्सिमम पता होना चाहिए, क्योंकि 50% तो हम ऑलरेडी अपने लेक्चर्स में पढ़ा चुके हैं. बहुत कुछ हमारे स्टडी मटेरियल में है हिस्ट्री में, और बहुत कुछ आपने खुद पढ़ा होगा. ओके, सो आज हम लोग मैं आपको ये लेक्चर क्यों दिया मैंने, जिससे कि ये बैच खत्म होने के बाद आपको ये पता रहे कि हमें हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंग्लिश लिटरेचर कैसे पढ़ना है. और ये भी है कि जो स्टूडेंट्स हमारे साथ बहुत आगे तक बढ़ना चाहते हों दिसंबर के लिए, और बहुत कुछ पढ़ना चाहते होंगे, then after this batch they will once again they can come back to me from July new batches. Okay, so fine, so just revise this lecture once again. इसको स्लो मोड में एक बार फिर से सुनिएगा वीडियो में, और बहुत ध्यान से सुनिएगा, क्योंकि जब सेकेंड टाइम आप सुनेंगे तो आपको बहुत ज्यादा अच्छा लगेगा और आपके कंसेप्ट और क्लियर होंगे. So I'll just take rest now because I'm exhausted. and we will start afresh on the crash course batch at 4:15. Fine, students. So just I'll take a short break, and we meet you again with a test series. Be prepared for it, and at 4:15 sharp.